Hello everyone, I'm Jeff Standley with Standley Handcrafted, and today we're going to talk about starting your own candle business in 2022. Now, I did a little bit, or a similar video at the beginning of last year, but I wanted to do an updated version and add a few more things to it. Last year's video was more about starting a business and this being the perfect time to start a business. So this video is going to focus a little bit more on talking about not only starting a candle business, but what you should look out for if you're starting a candle business in 2022. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Jeff Standley, and I make videos all about how to make candles and creating a business around candles. And of course, once you're done with this video, you can go back through and you can see all the other videos that get into some of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about today, and that is wicks, oils, wax, and everything like that. So feel free to take a look back through the previous videos. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button so that you see the videos when they come out. And let's go ahead and jump into this one. All right, so it's the beginning of 2022, and this is, like I said in the last video, this is the perfect time to start a candle business. So a lot of people got candle supplies over the holiday season. So if you're one of those people, or if you're looking to kind of start the new year, looking for like a side hustle or a new business, candle making is a great thing to start in. Now, I will say, and put a little bit of an asterisk next to that statement, candle business or making candles, candle making is not an easy thing, but it is something that you can learn over time and it becomes much easier. For anybody new to the channel, I will say candle making is one of those things that seems like it would be very easy to start out with. And I definitely don't want to discourage somebody jumping into candle making because once it comes down to the actual process of melting wax, adding oil, pouring into containers, the process is simple, but getting to that kind of easy step process can be a little bit trickier, and that's what I wanted to cover in today's video. So like I said, this is the perfect time to start a candle business, and what I mean by that is the candle business usually runs in cycles. They have kind of peaks and valleys as far as like sales go, markets go, and everything like that, and we're just now coming out of kind of the peak season, which is, of course, the holiday season, kind of September through the end of January, a little bit in February also. And again, that's not to discourage anybody that's looking to start this business because, like I said earlier, this is also the perfect time to start this business. And that is because it's going to take you a little while to get your testing down. And that's exactly what you should be focusing on once you figure out supplies and everything that you want to work with. So we'll go ahead and jump into that one. Now, I'm sure a lot of people over the holidays got maybe a candle making kit or some wax, oils, or anything like that. And that's what I would tell somebody to start out with. Probably one of the best things that you can do is go to one of the larger candle supplier websites, and I'll have a link in the video description down below to a bunch of different websites that have a good candle making kit. And honestly, this is probably the best way to start. Get a good candle making kit that comes with everything that you're going to need to make your first batch of candles. Definitely go through that, read the instructions. There's a lot of videos out there that show how to use these kits. And this is a real good, somewhat inexpensive way to make sure that this is the kind of the side hustle or the hobby that you really want to get into, or the business that you want to get into. So a lot of the kits that are out there are going to come with a particular type of wax, oils, the wicks, the jars, pretty much everything that you need to make a successful batch of candles. All right, a little bit of a camera angle change. The battery was dying on my camera. So what I was going to say is once you're done with that first candle making kit and you've decided that candle making is definitely something that you want to pursue, the next thing I would look into is what type of wax that you want to use. Now, this is going to be a big one that you need to decide on very early because it's going to affect every other aspect of candle making, from the oils to the vessels to the wicks, everything like that. So definitely choose your wax nice and early. Pick one that you want to work with because there will be some kind of growing pains or kind of a long testing process depending on the wax that you use to really nail your candles and get a good scent throw from them. And there are a lot of different waxes to choose from out there. I've got a bunch of videos that talk specifically about this one, so I won't talk about that one in this one, but definitely go back and I'll try to link some of the videos up there that talk about kind of the best waxes or some good waxes to start out with. So number two, after you figure out what wax you want to work with, probably the next important thing I would tell you to look for is what vessel that you want to make candles in. Now, this one is going to be somewhat important because when you get into candle making and once you start making candles, you're going to realize that trying to make candles in general with one single vessel is already difficult enough. Trying to figure out the oil percentages, trying to figure out the right wick to use. And all those factors will change depending on the vessel that you're using. So like when I first started making candles, I went out and I bought probably 10 different vessels and I threw in the waxes, the oils, the wicks, and it was the same thing for every single one. And of course, one wick doesn't always work for every vessel. There are literally dozens of different types of wicks that you can choose from and hundreds of sizes within those styles. So getting the right wick is going to be very important. That's why I say pick the vessel that you want to use. Say if it's something like a 8-ounce jelly jar, which I'll throw up right here so you can see what it is, mason jars, tumbler jars, anything like that. Pick the jar that you want to work with and use that one exclusively in the beginning. It's going to be much easier to go through and test your candles and kind of nail your process if you're only using one vessel. And then, of course, once you nail your candle, you get the percentages down, you figure out the wicks that you like to use that burn well in the wax. That's when I would say branch off and start trying out new vessels. And again, I'm going to go ahead and link a bunch of the stuff I'm talking about in the video description down below. There's a lot of good companies out there that sell some really nice vessels that you can choose from. The next thing that you're going to want to do after that is try to figure out what wick is going to work best in that wax. Now, like I said, there's a ton of different wicks that you can get out there. And again, I would go to some of the more reputable or the bigger actual candle supplier companies that are out there and get some different size wicks. Now, you can go to a bunch of the candle websites out there and they do have Wick Guides. And what that is if you're going to pick a vessel, wax, or anything like that, you need to know what wick size is going to work inside that vessel. So if you've got a vessel that is like 2 inches around or 4 inches around, that is going to be wildly different wicks, if not 2 or 3 wicks, depending on the vessel. So definitely take some time, look up some of the candle wick guides out there and find out what wick works best in like a soy or a paraffin or a blend like coconut and soy, and get a couple different wicks. So they have wicks and there are a bunch of different naming styles like an HTP, a CD, an LCS. Once you figure out the size that you need, like an HTP 93 or a CD 12 or an LCS 50, get some of those wicks in every different style so that you can test every single one of those wicks with your wax in your jar. And there are certain websites out there that do have like wick sampler packs. My website is one of those, West Sound Candle Supply. We do have the LCS wicks in a complete sampler pack. It comes with every single size. So it's a good place to start, and other websites absolutely sell sampler packs. But even if they don't have a sampler pack, you can really narrow it down by going to the Wick Guides, finding out at least 2 or 3 wicks, maybe just 2, that will work in the size of vessel that you're going to be using, and get both of those wicks. So in the case of the jelly jar that I mentioned earlier, like an HTP 83 or a 93 usually work really well in that jar. So I would definitely get at least a small pack. If they have 10 packs, grab a 10 pack of the 83s and the 93s so that you can test both of them. The next thing on the list is going to be testing your fragrance oils and how much oil you're going to put in per pound of wax. Now, you're going to see a bunch of different varieties from wax to wax. Some waxes will only hold a certain amount of oil. All waxes will only hold up to a certain amount of oil. So you're going to be playing with your percentages next. Once you figure out your wicks, you're going to want to test a few different candles with different oil percentages. And basically what that means is how much oil you're going to add to the wax. So if you add 1 ounce of oil to 1 pound of wax, if you're adding 1.6 ounces of oil to 1 pound of wax. And you definitely want to do some testing with this one, because how much oil you add is going to make a big difference depending on the wax that you use. And certain waxes will only hold a certain amount. So some of the waxes, like a harder paraffin wax, are only going to hold like 6 or 8%, which is like right around 1 ounce to 1.1, 1.2 ounces. Whereas a wax like a soy can hold up to 12%, which is about 1.6, 1.7 ounces of oil. Whereas a wax like soy can hold a lot more oil, usually up around 12%, which is going to be right around like 1.6 ounces of oil per pound of wax. The other reason you want to do a lot of testing with the oils is certain oils you won't need to add that much to get a really strong scent throw. And that, of course, is the strength of the scent that is throwing from the candle when you light it. So certain waxes you can add about 8%, 9%, and you get a really nice strong scent throw. And the more oil that you add, sometimes that scent throw can go down a little bit. So when you're first starting out, a lot of people want to throw in as much oil as they can because, and I did the same thing, you just automatically assume that the more oil you add, the bigger or stronger scent you're going to have. And that's just not the case when it comes to candle making. And this again goes back to testing, like I was talking about earlier, testing your waxes, your oils, your wicks, everything like that. You're going to see that certain wicks will burn a little bit hotter or a little bit cooler, so you don't need as much oil. And certain wicks will kind of draw up. If you put in too much oil, they'll draw up some of that oil and kind of drown itself out, or even mute itself so that you really don't get a good strong scent throw, even if you've added 1.6 ounces, kind of the upper end of adding oil to your wax. Now, one of the next things, and this one is going to be personal preference, is adding color to your candles. And I would say wait on adding color to your candles once you actually nail your candle making process. Once you know that you have the right wick, you've got the right wax, you know what you want to work with, you're getting a good scent throw, that's when I would say start adding or testing with color. Because adding certain colors, liquid dyes, or even the candle block dyes, it can change the burn of your candle. So you definitely want to get your candle making process down. That way, when you do add like a little bit of dye and you notice that your flame isn't as high, it's not throwing the scent as well as it used to, you're going to know that it's because of the dye or the dye block and not anything else that you've done. And one of the last things that you're going to want to do once you get your candle making process down, you're nailing your candles, is start handing them out to friends, family. Let them kind of burn your candle, test them for you, see how well they scent throw. Because sometimes you can get a little bit of scent dead. And when you're making candles for a really long time and you're burning them and testing them, they can start to kind of lose or what you perceive their potency to be. So you can burn a candle like 4 or 5 times throughout the week, and by the end of the week you don't even know if you smell the candle anymore. That's why it's a good idea to hand them out to friends and family so that they can put them in their houses and tell you exactly what they get from it, whether it's weak, whether it's strong. Because I've absolutely made some candles in particular scents that I really didn't get a good scent throw from, but once I handed that scent to a friend of mine or a family member of mine, they burned it in their house and said it filled the entire house. So it's definitely a good idea, and not only to give them a candle to see how well it does, but you want to test these things in a real world environment. So you want people to burn them how they normally would and kind of report back to you on how they behave. If they're burning too hot, if the flame is too big, or if the flame starts to go out after a little while. These are things that you definitely want to know, and some of these things are going to be because of the way that you made the candle. You either made it wrong, or it could be the person burning the candle. Sometimes people will burn a candle for too short of a time or too long of a time, and both of those can have some long-lasting effects on the candle itself. So you definitely want to iron that stuff out before you get to the point of wanting to sell your candles. Now, along with getting into candle making, there are a bunch of tools that you're going to need to start out. And I'm going to do that in kind of a part 2 of this video. There's not enough time to go through and talk about the different tools as far as like wick cutters, everything like that. So I'll do a follow-up video that shows exactly what you would need to do aside from getting, like I said in this video, a beginner's candle making kit. So part 2 of this video, I'll go through and I'll list out the waxes, the wicks, the oils, and I'll list out a bunch of different ones and a bunch of different companies that you can get this stuff from, so that if you're getting past this video and candle making is definitely something you want to get into, this part 2 video will show you exactly what you need to get and exactly where to get it from. All right, so I hope that video was definitely helpful for anybody, like I said, that's looking to get into candle making in 2022. I know that I've glossed over quite a bit in this video, but I think it's enough to give people kind of a jumping off point or what to look for or what to expect when you're first getting into this thing. And those first beginning steps that I mentioned in this video, as far as like choosing your wax and choosing your jars, things like that, are definitely things that I want to let people know of first, because they will make such a huge impact on whether or not you enjoy this candle making process. Because starting out with the wrong things can definitely frustrate people to the point of not wanting to do this. So having an idea of what to look for or what to expect can definitely help kind of ease that frustration and confusion that can definitely come along with something like this. If there is anything in the video that I glossed over or you'd like more information on, like I said, I do have a bunch of videos that talk about a lot of these different things. Some of the stuff that I have mentioned before, but I will definitely go over in the part 2 of this one. But go back through, look at some of those videos. And of course, let me know in the comment section down below what you'd like to know in the part 2, and I'll go through and update that and make sure it's in the video. And of course, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notification so that you know when that video comes out. And of course, you can also jump over to the Facebook group, which is DIY Candle Making Beginner to Advanced. It's a group of more than 100,000 people that are all in there talking about candles. So if you're anxious, you want to get jump on this thing, you don't want to wait for the next video, and you want to learn more about candle making, definitely jump over, get in the group, and start kind of browsing the posts that are in there and start asking questions. And of course, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.